This is a tutorial on how to make the StarCraft Battlecruiser using 6 sets of magnets. This Battlecruiser is sort of difficult to make, so if you're new to magnets, you probably don't want to attempt this. I'd recommend my video about just intro to magnet spheres if you're new. But if you consider yourself pretty experienced, then try it. So take 6 sets of magnets. This is each one of these hexagons is a set, but I'm going to keep them off screen and just assume that they're all there. So the first thing you do is make a chain of magnets, as always, and then you want to make 2 hexagons of 3 layers thick, and then make a ring of 9, and then make a ring of 6. And then with all these magnets, you just get rid of them, because those are a few more than you need for this creation. So with your remaining magnets, I'm going to call this end a positive end. And that's important because at some point in the video I will flip it over and we will be working with the negative end. So the end you start off with is the positive end. So with the positive end, you start off by making a ring of 6, and then you want to turn into a cylinder of 8 tall. So this is a cylinder, 8 tall, and of 6. And then you add a second layer to this cylinder. So now you should have a 2-layer deep cylinder, base 6, 8 tall. So if you look at the cylinder, you notice how the top right now, it should either look like that, or it will look like that. So those are the 2 different variations of the hexagon, because hexagons either come in the variety that's shaped like a hexagon, or they come in the kind of offset hexagon. So you want the offset hexagon to not be on top. So you put the normal hexagon on top. So the backside will be the offset one. And now you flip your chain over to the negative side. And remember which side is the top. That's important for everything. And okay, so now you want to make, I think, the 12 rings of 4 negative. Now, you take your cylinder here, and you want to, hope you could see it. So on the second row, not the first row, you want this corner to touch the second row, and you lie it down. So you can kind of see how it fits there. And you repeat that for 6 times. Whoops. So now you have this. And now you do the same thing, but this time you start from the 3rd row from the bottom. And you have to point and touch the 2 magnets and lay it down. 6 and you're completed, you'll have this interesting looking cylinder. Put that to the side, your magnet chain, flip it back to positive. Now you want to make a ring of 28, which you can do by breaking it down to 12 and 12, which is 24. So that's 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So that's a ring of 28. And you want to make another ring of 22, I think. Whatever 28 minus 4, 6 is. So you have these two rings, and you want to add 2 more layers on top. So 1, 2, 1, 2. And you take the smaller ring and just cram inside the bigger ring. So it's tricky. I made it look easier than it is, but just squish it in until you get some shape. And just squeeze this shape until you end up with this. So it's important that the edges look like this. The edges are rounded. And then if you peel back to the second layer will have a more hexagonal edge, but the front layer and the back layer will have the more rounded corners. So now you take this and add another layer on top, and if you notice, this layer will be more hexagonal. Now take magnets and put them at the ends of each of the hexagons, the side ends, I don't know what they're called, and peel off one layer on the ends. And to stabilize this shape, just slide under it with a card. It helps align the magnet structure to the new shape. Now you take out the center 2 magnets for the innermost layer on each side. So you have this. And take 2 magnets and put them in the end. Take another 2 magnets and put them in the other end. So you have a hole, which will be the Yamato cannon for the Battlecruiser. And now, keep in mind where the center is to make sure it lines up correctly. And remember, the top of this unit is the more hexagonal side and not the rounder side. And stick them together. And this will be the front part of your Battlecruiser. So set that aside and rotate your magnet chain to the negative. And we'll be working negatively for a while. So now that you're in the negative, make a hexagon, 3 layers, and then add a second layer on top. But this layer will be the offset layer. So it'll be the rounder shaped hexagon. If you just make another hexagon and plop it on top, it might not always offset, which is why I made this layer individually. So now you have this round wheel looking thing, and you want to count out 8 magnets, 6 magnets, 6 magnets, and form them into a loop. And double your loop, and then split it. And make sure you preserve the sizes so they're both just still the same size. And just loosely stick them to the top layer like that. And next you will add another layer, and we're going to be adding a total of 5 more layers on top. So the total of layers will be 6 with this kind of protrusion on the side. So now you see this is what we have. And you just keep going. This is the offset layer. Alright, so now we have 6 layers with the protrusion and 1 layer without. And what we're going to do is add another offset layer. Just so you know that it's 6 tall, beside the fact that it's 6 tall by counting. The top of this should be more hexagonal and not offset. That's important. Now we add another layer on top, and this will be an offset layer. And then take 4 magnets and stick them to each side, so you end up with this. And now you want to make another hexagon layer on top. And then you want to make another offset layer on top. Now, next part's sort of tricky. So remember the orientation of your chain. Right now your chain is negative. So with your negative chain, make a ring of 5. This is a ring of 5, 5. And turn it into a cylinder 6 high. And then cut it in half. But remember which side is top. So these are negative. And this is the top. Now you flip your chain over, and you want to make a ring of 6 this time, and make it 6 tall. And split it in half again. So these are positive, and these are negative. And you take the 6s and put the edges together like that, so that 2 magnets are touching, not 3, not 1. And you take the ring of 5 and make sure the 2 sides here, these 2 magnets here, touch these 2 magnets here. Like that. And then they should just sort of naturally snap into place. And then you repeat with the other ring of 5. And this is the engines to your Battlecruiser. And to mount them on the body, there's a point right here. I want to add a ring of 5. I want it to touch the edge where there's 2 magnets, and it'll just lie it down, so it should stick on pretty easily. Alright, so right now your chain should still be positive. We're going to flip this body around, so now we're working in a positive orientation around, and you can double check the chain is positive, it's matching. And this part's going to be sort of tricky. You're going to turn this into a bubble, and you want to squeeze it inwards until you end up with this. It takes some art in doing it. You can see how I struggled a little bit back there, and this is going to be a difficult step. But you can see how, to check your orientation, that there's a 6 here in parallel, 6 here in parallel, and there's going to be 4 here in parallel. So I'm going to rotate to the other side and just show you what could go wrong, and things that could go wrong is if you end up with something like this, and you can see how there's points sticking out and these sides are not matching, so that's not what you want. So you pop it out again, and you can also see this is not right either. I mean, it's symmetrical, but the points are sticking out, which is not what you want. So you want to keep working with it until you end up with this, which is, as you can see, 6, 6, 4, and no points. Yeah. So you can see most of your Battlecruisers coming together nicely here. Now you take your remaining magnets and make a ring of 5 and make 2 layers on top, 1 layer on top, so you'll end up with this unit and make 4 of those. And hold your body like this, and then you will attach it by like that, so that you want to attach like that. I'll show you a few more. So there's a point here on the end of the tip of the wing, and you want to match that with kind of a pair of magnets on the end of your ring of 5. So you see that there, snap it in. You don't have to worry too much about it fitting perfectly. You could do that at the end. So you sort of tap it to make sure it's all correctly seated. Now you just need the fronts. So these are rings of 5 again, but this time they're 4 tall. And once you've made it, also add an extra magnet on top to round off the tip. So you want 4 of these. So now that you have these 4, it's similar to what you did before, and except this time the point will be on this magnet, and you stick it to the pair and lie it down. So to show you again, point to pair. It should snap in pretty naturally, and you have that. And now this next part is fun, and it's easy. you can see this is offset and this is the normal hexagon, so if you just center it, it should just snap in. And you have most of the Battlecruiser completed. Now, right now it's symmetrical on both sides. Oh yeah, so as you can see, my Battlecruiser wing has just collapsed, and that's pretty common actually, due to size. So if that happens, take off the pods, and you have to redo the folding step you did earlier, which I'll do now because I messed up. I should probably edit this out. Alright, so snap back on the tips and the rears. So as I was saying, the Battlecruiser right now is double-sided. There's no difference between top and bottom. So to fix that, make it more interesting, you take your magnet chain and flip it over to the negative. And make a ring of 6, a ring of 6, and put it on to the wings. And there isn't a super mathematical way to get it exactly on, but if it looks symmetrical to you, you did a good job. Alright, the last part for the top. You take 5 magnets, and then you fold it downwards, and then you fold it back up. And if you end up with more than 0 magnets left over, because right now you can see how all the magnets add up perfectly to what I'm going to do. So if you have more magnets left over or not enough, then you probably messed up somewhere, and that's bad, and you'll probably have to start over or just find your error. But the reason why I took out the magnets in the beginning instead of the end is so you can do error checking. Alright, so the last part is to mount these few magnets on top. You want to get to the second row and just stick that on the front, and then keep a hold of the sides. This is a pretty tricky part since these magnets are likely to misbehave like that, but squeeze it. Forgot I had zoom. Okay, so you squeeze it a bit, and it will probably not cooperate for a while, but if you coax it enough, eventually you get an arch. And once you get this arch here, then you could push down the middle of the arch. And once you do that, you will have the completed Battlecruiser. Something you might want to note is that I did not close off the back here of the head because the magnets won't line up perfectly, but since you have all these mags left over from before, you could seal that up if you want. Since you have so many mags left over, you could customize it however you want. But this is the Battlecruiser.